Okay, hi again everyone. My name's Jamie Wallace. I'm from Brainfuse and I'll be conducting the webinar today. We're a couple minutes after the scheduled start time, so I think I'll go ahead and get started for today. I know I heard from most of you in the chat box. I was asking earlier if the audio was working, so I know most of you are able to hear me, and most of you also have used that chat box now. So that's what should be used throughout the webinar to ask any questions or type out any comments, anything like that. So I'll try to pause a couple times as we go through the webinar today to give you some additional time to type out questions. But you can feel free to type those out at any point, and a little box pops up on my end, so I'll see that question as soon as you send it in to me. Okay, so everybody should be able to see my screen here as well as hear me. So what we're looking at right now is one of the pages that some of your students or patrons will see. So based on the type of institution that you are from, your page may look just like this one. It may look a little bit different. So we have some higher ed institutions. We have some libraries, some public libraries. We also have some school districts. So the page we're looking at here is mostly what will be seen by either libraries or school districts. This is the page we're going to use for the webinar today. If anyone signed in from a higher ed institution, your page will look more like this one that I have opened up right here, where our tabs are sort of hidden. Right here, you can click on each tab to see the different options that are available. The buttons that are available are pretty much identical. Sorry, just opened the wrong window. Are pretty much identical to the ones that we see right here. They're just set up in a different format that we use for our higher ed institutions. But the options that you have available, again, will be pretty much the same. So this is the page we're going to use today. Basically, I'll be going through all the different options that we see here. And I'll show you exactly how everything works. One of the main points of the webinar today is to get any questions answered that you have, so please feel free to type out any questions whenever you have them. And okay, great, I see a couple people typed out while I was speaking there that the audio is now working. Great, so I think I've heard from almost everyone, so hopefully everyone's able to hear me now. Okay, so again, this is the main page that we're looking at right here. So this is what your students or your patrons will see when they log in. We then have a number of different sections labeled right here. Each of these has a number of different buttons you can click on, and each of these buttons is a different service that we offer, or a different part of our service. So I'm going to start right up here at the top of the page and work my way down. Pretty much all the options that we see here in the main part of the page, these are mostly geared towards students. We have our Job Now section here, which of course is not just geared towards students. That can be used by adults and adult learners. But if you have any adults, this is mostly geared towards libraries. If you have any adults who are looking for academic tutoring help, for the most part, they'll find that help up here within our Adult Learners button, and I'll get to that option later in the webinar. So I'm going to start right here with the Expert Help section. Our first two buttons here are Live Help and Skills Building. So essentially these two options will allow you to connect with one of our live tutors and ask a homework question or some other academic question you're having difficulty with, or you can just log in to get general help on a topic you're working on. So the Live Help button here on the left, if I click on this one, takes me to this page. So to connect with one of our live tutors, all you do is enter a grade level. You'll see from the options available here up through 12th grade, and we even list college here as well. Then you choose the subject. So for the higher grade levels, you'll see lots of additional subjects here. If you go down to 4th grade, you'll just see the basic academic subjects listed here. So you choose the one you need help with. You can click on this checkbox here if you'd like to get a Spanish-speaking tutor, and then you click on the Get Live Help button to connect with one of our tutors. So I'm going to go through all of our services first, and then towards the end today, we'll look at a live session. So I'll show you what a live session looks like, but we'll do that towards the end. Next to Live Help, we have Skills Building. Again, this button will also connect you with a live tutor. The Live Help button that we just looked at, that's usually used by a student who has a specific question they'd like to ask. And the Skills Building button here next to it is used by students who have a general topic or skill that they'd like to get some help with. So, they're learning how to multiply fractions in class or something like that. They'd like some extra help. They can come here to Skills Building, connect with one of our tutors, and get some help on that topic. So within the Skills Building button here, Again, you just have to choose your grade level and then your subject. So if I choose 8th grade math, you'll see there's one more drop-down menu here. So for each grade level and subject, we'll have a number of different skills listed here in this drop-down menu, and you can find the one that you'd like to get some help with. For each of these skills here, we have a lesson created to go along with it. So if I choose the first one here, evaluate expressions with powers, I then click on Get Live Help. That will connect me with a live tutor. The tutor will see that I chose this topic to work on, and they can load our lesson on that topic right into our online classroom. Our lessons are just like those found in a textbook, so they'll go over the basics of the topic and then some sample and practice questions, and the tutor will be there working through that with the student the whole time. If you can't find the topic you're looking for help with, you can always just log in and then tell the tutor specifically what it is you need help with. And again, you can click here to get a Spanish-speaking tutor. Okay, so I'm going to pause at this point just for a few seconds to give anyone that has a question time to type it out. So go ahead and type that out if you have one, and then in 10 or 20 seconds, if I don't see any questions, I'll just move on. But again, you can feel free to type these questions out anytime. You don't need to wait for me to ask for questions. So if anyone has any now, you can go ahead and type those out. Okay, so far I don't see any questions. So I'm going to move down the page here, and our next option, the next button you see here is the Writing Lab. So basically those two options that we just looked over right here, your students or your patrons will be able to log into Brainfuse and click on these options and connect with one of our tutors right away, meaning they won't have to create a username and password to use our live help options here. For the Writing Lab though, and some of the other services we'll look at, each student will need their own unique username and password. So if you click on the Writing Lab, the system will take you to a page that asks you either to sign in, if you have an account already, or to create an account. The account is of course totally free. The only thing that that student or patron needs to give us is a username and password, and those can be whatever they would like. The only reason we ask for that is so that you can have your own account where information can be stored. Specifically for the Writing Lab, this is a service that allows a student to send in a paper or an essay, any type of writing, to us to have one of our tutors review that for them. So we don't want that to be seen by other students. So you have this username and password that only you can access. So once you're signed in, you only have to sign in once per session. I've already signed in for today, so when I click on the Writing Lab, it's going to take me directly to the Writing Lab page here where I can send in a document. But again, if I was using the service for the first time, it would take me to a page that asks me either to sign in or to create an account. So the system will always prompt you for that. I'll show you what the specific account that you create does. Basically, it's these learning account features we see here on the right. Everything here will be specific to your account. So starting with the Writing Lab here, if I want to send in a piece of writing to have it reviewed by one of our tutors, you just follow the steps here. So the default here to attach your document in number 1 is from your computer. So you click on Browse. You can locate the file that you'd like to send in to us. I'll attach a sample that I have here. Pretty much any standard document type can be sent. The From Cloud Pack option here goes along with your Cloud Pack, which is one of the options you see over here on the right-hand side. That's basically a storage device where you can upload documents or even create documents directly from here. I'll go over that again in a little more detail later, but any documents you have there, you can also upload into the Writing Lab here. So you just attach the document. You add any comments that you have here in the comments box. So you might type out what the assignment was or what you're looking for help with specifically within the paper. And then when you're ready, you click on the Submit button down here in number 3. So this message will pop up that directs you to your Message Center. So you'll see here on the right, the Message Center is one of the options. So this is where the document that you send will be saved, and it's also where the document that our tutor sends back to you will be saved. So our turnaround time is 1 business day maximum from when you send in your paper to when we send it back. But even if you send something in on Friday night or Saturday morning, we'll send that back within 1 day most of the time. We'll do our best. And sometimes, you'll get that back within a few hours. So the tutor's review will show up right here in your message center. This right here is a sample of what our tutor's reviews look like. So we always include our rubric form here on the top, which has a number of different sections here. The tutor will fill in each of these sections with comments and suggestions to the student for how they can improve that part of their paper. And then if you scroll down, you'll find the actual paper that the student sent in to us, and the tutor will include comments within their paper as well. So the comments here in the blue bolded text are from our tutor. So that's the structure of the review that we'll provide. We always focus on providing comments and suggestions on how the student can improve their paper. So everything that we provide for the student will require the student to actually go back and make the changes. We're not an editing service where we fix everything up for the student. It's more like a teacher who's grading the paper, will give comments on what could have been done better. We'll sort of do the same thing without giving a grade to the paper. So that's the writing lab. We're back here on the main page. Next to that option, we have our send question button. This one works exactly the same way as the writing lab, except it lets you send in an academic question instead of a paper. So you just click on send question. Again, it'll ask you to sign in if you haven't already signed in, or create an account if you're using the service for the first time. So you'll just enter a grade level and a subject, and then you'll type out your question here in the question box. You can also attach a file if you'd like to. That's optional, and then click on submit. So one of our tutors will get back to you, again, within 1 business day. So this is not connecting with a live tutor. It's sort of asynchronously sending in a question. Our tutor will send back a response within 1 business day. We're never going to just give out answers to questions sent in here. We'll either give resources or hints to the student to help them get the answer, or if it's a math question or something like that that's sent in, usually our tutor will work through a similar problem, the same type of question using different numbers or slightly different problem, and that will show the student how to do that type of question, and then they can use that to work on their specific problem. So we'll never give out answers to questions sent in here. These questions and responses will also be saved within your message center here, just like for the writing lab. And then next to the send question button, we have what we call our language lab. And this is basically here for any students who are learning to speak Spanish. So any English-speaking students who are taking Spanish classes, we have the only option in the drop-down menu here is Spanish, so it's the only language we currently offer in the Language Lab. So you can choose that, click on Get Live Help, and that will connect you with a live tutor who can help you with learning the Spanish language. In the 2 live help options here at the top, Live Help and Skills Building, we also saw this checkbox you can use, and that's most often used by a native Spanish speaker. So someone who chooses, for instance, 8th grade math, and they'd like that help from a Spanish-speaking tutor. And again, the Language Lab is usually for someone who's learning to speak Spanish. Okay, so I'm going to pause again. That's the end of the Expert Help section here. So before we move down the page, I'll give everyone a few seconds to type out any questions if you have any. I see there's a question saying, is the help verbal or written? Do we need speaker on the computer? The help in the live sessions is all done through our online classroom, which does not use audio, so it's written. So we have a smartboard where the tutor and student communicate, and a chat box where they can type messages back and forth. And again, I'll show you the online classroom towards the end of the webinar today. So you do not need speakers on your computer. Okay, I don't see any other questions for right now. So below the Expert Help section here, we have our Job Now tab. I'm actually going to skip that one for now. We're going to do Study and then Collaborate, and then we'll come back to Job Now. Study and Collaborate are more academic tutoring options, so they relate more directly to the Expert Help section that we just went over. So we'll come back and look at Job Now after these two. So Study, right down here, the first option we have there is our Test Center. This basically allows a student to take academic practice tests. It's another part of our service where you'll need to have a username and password to access. That's so that those test results can be saved within your account. So again, I'm already signed in. So this is the Test Center page. On the left-hand side here, I can just choose a grade level and then a subject, and I can take a practice test in that subject. On the right-hand side, I can choose ACT or SAT and take a practice test for that test as well. So for example, if I choose ACT English and then take a test, that assigns me the ACT English quiz right here with today's date. This page that we're looking at here is called your My Tests page. So over here on the right, you'll see the option for My Tests. So this is where your test results will be saved, and also any tests you requested to take but have not yet taken. So these two quizzes right here, I've requested within this account. If I want to take either one, I just click on the name of it here. It opens up in a separate window, and I can take that quiz. Once I've taken a quiz, those results will be saved here on this page as well. So you'll be able to see the score, look through each question to see which ones you got wrong and what the correct answers were. You can retake that exact same quiz if you'd like. There'll be a button right next to it to retake it. If you've already taken, for example, the ACT English Quiz 1 here, and you'd like to take a totally different ACT English quiz, you just go back to the Test Center page, request ACT English again, and the system will assign you Quiz 2. A lot of students like to take one of these practice tests and then sign in with one of our live tutors. And our tutors are able to see the students' test results and go over each of the questions they answered incorrectly. So it's a great way for the student to review. Back here on the main page, and in the study section again, next to the Test Center button, we have what we call Flashbulb. Flashbulb basically allows the student to create flashcards to help with memorization. So the Flashbulb page here, if I click on that button, looks just like this. Most students will use the Create Now button here on the left, so that lets the student enter their own flashcards. So it might be vocabulary words and definitions, or terms from biology class or another science class. Anything like that you can enter here, and then this will help with memorization. These topics you see listed over here, you can click on each of these to look through sets of flashcards that other people have created within that topic. These are mostly user-generated, so other students, so they may not be accurate. But once you've created a set of flashcards, I'll click on one quickly just to show you what it looks like. So this page right here is one set of flashcards. So you enter those vocab words and definitions, and then you have all these different icons you see down here, and each one of these lets you do something different with those cards to help with memorization. So you'll see a lot of games listed here. You can take a quiz or a test. You can edit the cards later. You can print them out if you need hard copies. So once you enter these cards, they're saved here, and then you have all these options that will really help with memorization, a lot more so than just having hard copies of the cards. So that was the study section right here, back on the main page. I'll move down now to the Collaborate section. The first button here is called Meet. And essentially Meet allows you to schedule an online meeting with whoever you'd like to invite to the session. So it uses our online classroom, just like when you connect with one of our live tutors, except in a Meet session here, you're not connecting with our tutors. You're only connecting with the people that you invite to that session. So this might be used by a group of students to host a study group, or it could even be used by a tutor or a teacher to give some extra help to their students. And the nice thing about it is that everyone connected in one of these sessions can be in a different physical location. You just connect online. So if I click on the Meet button, again, you'll need a username and password to schedule one of these sessions, but the people that you invite to the session will actually not need a username and password. Only the person creating the session will need a username and password. So to set up one of these Meet sessions, you just type in the email addresses of the people you'd like to invite, put in the date and time, and then a description of the meeting, and click on Send. So that will send everybody whose email address you entered an email, and they'll be able to click on a link within that email to join the session. So again, they won't necessarily need to have a Brainfuse username and password. They can just click on the link to join the session. If you schedule one of these Meet sessions, you have the calendar option over here on the right. So this is where a scheduled Meet session would be saved. So right here is one that I scheduled earlier. I could click on the Enter button right here if I wanted to start that session. These work, again, just like a live session with one of our tutors. So the online classroom is essentially exactly the same. There's only a few small differences. And we'll go over the online classroom again a little bit later when we connect for a live session. So these Meet sessions here are great for people who need to connect from different locations, to go over homework, to prepare for a test, anything like that. Back on the main page here, next to the Meet feature, we have Brainwave. Brainwave basically gives you a smartboard where you can type out or draw whatever you'd like onto the board, and our system creates a little video recording of whatever you put on the board there. A good example of what you might use it for is to show how to solve a multi-step math problem. So you can use, I'll click on this option right here. This is one that I recorded another time. So basically this is what it looks like when it replays. So you have the same options that you have in our online classroom. So we'll have along the left-hand side here that are cut off in the replay. But when you're creating this, you'll see them along the left-hand side here. You have a number of buttons you can use. So there's a graph option that I used to put a graph on the board. I added a line, and then presumably I started to find the slope of that line. So you can go through all the steps to solving that problem, and then you'll have a nice little video recording saved of how to do that. You can also type longer blocks of text down here in the chat box. So these will be saved within your account. You'll need to have a username and password to record these. Once you record one of them, you can either just use it for your own benefit and rewatch it, but you can also click on the envelope icon over here to type in someone's email address and send that recording to them. So these can be sent between students, or again, they could even be created by a teacher or a tutor and sent to their students. Just like our live sessions, there's no audio with these sessions. It's just whatever you put on the whiteboard or in the chat box. We also have the Library tab here, Brainwave Library. You can search by keyword here to see if anyone created any brainwaves on a topic that you're working on. Again, these are user-created brainwaves, just like our flashcards, so there's no guarantee that they're accurate or that there'll be any on the topic you're working on. And you can always access your brainwaves page by clicking on the brainwaves button over here on the right. Okay, so I'm going to pause again. We just went over study and collaborate sections here. I'm going to pause to see if anyone has any questions. So go ahead and type those out if you do have any, and then we'll move on and look at the Job Now section. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I'll move on now to the Job Now section, which we skipped over earlier. So that's right here in the middle of the page. Job Now is basically a job search help service that we offer. So again, this would not be relevant for anyone who's signed in from a school district. In fact, I don't actually think it would show up on your site if you're from a school district. But if you're from a library or a higher ed institution, Job Now might be useful for any of your students or patrons who are looking for a job. So we offer help with writing the resume, the cover letter, finding jobs, preparing for the interview, all the steps in the job search process. So we have those available in the 3 different buttons that we list right here. So the first one is Write the Resume. So here we offer help with resumes, also cover letters here as well. So the Resume Templates button that we see here, for anyone who's creating a resume for the first time, they can use one of our 4 templates that we list right here. We then have our Resume Resources button. So these are some links to outside websites that you can use that will help you write a better resume. And then we have our Resume Lab. So once you have a draft of your resume written, you can go to the Resume Lab here, upload it, and send it in to us. And one of our tutors will review that, give you some help with formatting the resume as well as the content. Then they'll send that back to you again within 1 business day, just like for the Writing Lab. So Resume Lab and Writing Lab, they work the exact same way. We're also happy to help with cover letters here, even though we call it the Resume Lab. So you can submit a cover letter here, and one of our tutors will get back to you about that as well. Back on the main page here, in the Job Now section, that was the Write the Resume button. Next to that, we have Ace the Interview. So you can click on the first button here to connect with one of our live interview coaches. It uses our online classroom, just like when you connect for a math session or something like that. You'll connect in the same online classroom, but you'll be connecting with an interview coach here. And again, we'll go over exactly what options you have in the online classroom in a few minutes when we connect for that live session. Interview Tips here has a number of different topics that you can click on right here to get some basic tips. So this will help you prepare before the interview, give you some idea of what to do during the interview, and also how to follow up after the interview. And then next to the Interview Tips button, we have online resources. So again, these are some links you can use to other websites to help you further prepare for an interview. Back in the Job Now section, so that was the Write the Resume and the Ace the Interview buttons. The third one, available down here, is Links and Tips. So we have a Career Assessments button here on the left. So these are some free career assessments that your patrons or your students can take if they have no idea what field or industry they'd like to go into. And then we also have a Job Resources button. So these are some lists of websites we've compiled that you can use to find available jobs to apply to. So we have a nationwide option here. These are national job search websites. We have general job sites for students and recent graduates, and then also job sites for veterans. But then we also have a local resources for job seekers option. So these are customized for the state of Nevada. Okay, so that's the Job Now section. So those are all of the main options available here on the Help Now page. I do want to go over the Adult Learners button up here at the top. So I'll do that now. So I click right here on this yellow button. So this would be used by any adults who are coming into the library to get some help, preparing for a certification exam, some sort of test. Maybe they're going back to school and taking some classes, anything like that. They can come here to get help. So on the right-hand side of the Adult Learning Center page, is what we call it here, on the right under where it says Lifelong Learning, we basically have 5 of the exact same options that we just saw back on the main page. They're just geared towards adults here in the Adult Learning Center. So we have live tutoring and skills building, where they can connect with our live tutors to get academic help. We have the Writing Lab, where they can send in a paper or any piece of writing to have it reviewed. The Test Center, where they can take academic practice tests. And 24/7 Help, where they can send in a question any time of day. So these options are all the same as the ones we saw back on the main page. They're just geared towards adults here in the Adult Learning Center. On the left-hand side, we have some additional options for adult learners. So we have our Pass the GED button here for anyone who is preparing to take the GED test. So we have study materials, and then we have live tutors available under number 2, and then under number 3 on the right, you can take a practice test for each section of the GED test. Below the GED button, we have Prepare for the U.S. Citizenship Test. So we have the same options here as we did for the GED. So we have study materials, live tutors, and then practice tests. We then have a Write a Winning Resume button. This actually overlaps a little bit with the resume option that we just saw back on the main page. That's just because some of our clients don't have both the Adult Learning Center and Job Now. But here within the resume button, we have our online resources again for resumes. We have our Upload Resume button again. So this is where you can send in your resume or your cover letter to us to have it reviewed. We do have one additional button here, which is Live Resume Help. So this will let you connect for a live session with one of our resume tutors who can answer any questions you have, or just go over your resume in real time in a live session. Below the resume button, we have Microsoft Office Help. So we offer help here with Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint up to the most recent versions of those programs. So we have some online resources here on the left, and then on the right, you can connect with a live tutor and ask any questions you have about Excel, PowerPoint, or Word. And then the last option here, below Microsoft Office Help, is our career resources. We already saw the career resources within the Job Now section, so you'll see the same thing here. We have the nationwide and local resources. These links will be exactly the same. They're just located in two places. Okay, so that was the Adult Learners button, as well as Job Now. So I'm going to pause there and give everyone a few seconds to type out any questions if you have them. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on and look at a live session. Okay, I don't see any questions yet. Actually, I do see one just popped up. It says, for Microsoft Help, can they teach someone who's never used it, or do they need a basic understanding before they start asking for help? We're happy to help with any questions. We don't really have curriculum created like we do for academic topics for the Microsoft Help, so we can't really teach it start to finish. But if someone logs in, has never used Microsoft Excel before, and wants to make a basic Excel sheet, our tutor would be happy to walk them through the basics. So again, our tutors will really cater to what the student or the patron needs help with. Before we connect for the live session, over here on the right under the Learning Account features, I think we looked at pretty much all of these. My account just shows you your username and password in case you happen to forget it. View past sessions is where your live tutoring sessions are recorded and saved. This section, if you remember, I mentioned at the beginning that to connect with our live tutors, you do not need a username and password. So you can just click on the Brainfuse link, get to this page here, and then connect for a live session without signing in with the username and password. So if you do that, your session is not recorded and saved. But if you sign in with a username and password and then connect for a live session, that session, the session recording is saved right here within the View Past Sessions button. So essentially you can click here and rewatch any of your past live tutoring sessions. Again, that only works if you have a username and password. The Message Center, My Tests, Calendar, Brainwaves, we went over each of those options. And then down at the very bottom is My Cloud Pack, which I mentioned before. So this is the storage device. If you click on it, the first time you won't see these two subfolders. These are ones that I added. So you can add whatever subfolders you'd like here, and then you can upload documents into those folders. So you can save materials here, so it can work as a backup storage device. You can also create documents directly from Cloud Pack here. You just click on Add, and you'll have the option to either add a document that's already created or create a new document. And then once you have documents saved in your Cloud Pack, you can use them to upload to us through the Writing Lab. You have the From Cloud Pack option here in the Writing Lab. And the other option you'll have is when you're connected in a live session, you can actually upload those documents that you have in your Cloud Pack right into our online classroom to share with your tutor. So you might have a paper saved there that you're working on. You'll be able to upload that into our online classroom to share it with the tutor that you're working with. Let's go ahead and connect for a live session. So we'll see how that works. We looked at a lot of different areas throughout our service where you can connect with live tutors. We had a number of them within the Adult Learners button. We had a few within Job Now. But the main one, the one where we get the most traffic for live tutoring, is the first button we looked at here, the Live Help button. So if I click there, and let's say I choose 8th grade, and then Writing, and then I click on the Get Live Help button. So this will connect me with an 8th grade writing tutor. So our online classroom here that's opening up, this will always look the same no matter what subject you choose. You'll always see the same window that we're looking at right here. So this is just a tutor who's online right now. I'm going to type them a quick message to let them know I don't need an actual session. So as you can see, the tutor and I are typing back and forth down here in the chat box. So that's the main, where most of the back and forth communication occurs, is down here in the instant message chat box. There's really two main parts to our online classroom. We have the chat box down here, and then the whiteboard space up here on the top. So back and forth communication occurs in the chat box down here, and the whiteboard space up here, is where a student will usually type out their math problem they need help with. They can paste part of a paper they're working on. Maybe they need help working on the conclusion with their writing tutor here. They might use our paste button, which is right over here, to paste their conclusions they have so far, and get some feedback from the tutor. If the student logs in for a skills building session, where they need general help on a topic or a skill, the tutor might load our lesson into the online classroom here to help the student, and that lesson would appear right here on the whiteboard as well. Our tutors also have a number of other materials they can load, especially for the job search process. We have lists of interview questions our tutors can load here to help practice with someone who's preparing for an interview, and a lot of other materials that our tutors are trained on and know that they can access to help the student. Most of the time, though, the student will just log in, with a math problem, chemistry problem, something like that they need help with, and they can type that here on the whiteboard space. You'll do that using all these different buttons that we see along the left-hand side. These work like Microsoft Paint or a similar program to that. So you just choose the icon here, or the button that you'd like to work with, and then you can put various things onto the board. So the freehand draw button just lets you draw on the board. You can erase. You can use the text button here to click anywhere on the board and then type. So most of these are pretty self-explanatory, and you can also put your mouse over each one to see what that button does. A few of the more useful ones are the copy and paste option right here. So this lets you copy and paste anything that can be copied and pasted right onto the whiteboard. So text, images, pictures, anything like that. The graph option right here actually lets you choose between a number line and a graph. So you can choose the number line and click and drag that onto the board. Let's say I want to change the color. I'll change it to green, and then I choose the graph option. So that graph will show up here on the board in green. You can double click on each of these icons here, and it will let you change the X and Y values as well. You can put some basic shapes on the board using our shapes button here. I just changed the color again. So let's say I choose the circle. I can put some of those on the board. I can change it to red, and add a line to the graph. So these are all options the student will have. The rest of these down here are pretty self-explanatory. You can clear the whiteboard at the very bottom. You can use superscripts and subscripts. If you need any symbols, we have these available here in our math and science buttons. And then up here at the top, we have a few additional options. You can print out the whiteboard here using this button. So if you went over a problem that was especially helpful, you can print that out. This button right here lets you enter an email address, either your own or somebody else's, and that will send a recording of the session to that email address. So usually you'll click on this button right before you sign out at the end of the session. You can do that whether you're a registered user or not. So if you are a registered user, you have that username and password, you'll have the View Past Sessions button here on the website where you can always see your session recording. If you sign in as a guest, though, you will not be able to see your session recording unless you click on this button here, enter your email address, and send that recording to yourself. But you can use this also if you're a registered user. Then you'll have access to that recording from your email rather than having to sign into your Brainfuse account. This button right here says Send File. This lets you upload a document directly to the tutor you're connected with. So you can send them a Microsoft Word document or any other standard document type. And then the last option here is your Cloud Pak Explorer. So this lets you access anything you have stored within your Cloud Pak, the storage device that we just looked at a few minutes ago. So Cloud Pak will upload those documents right onto the whiteboard here. The Send File button actually sends the full file to the tutor so they can open it on their computer. The audio option down here will always be disabled when you're connected with our tutors, so you won't actually be able to speak to them. But other than that, this is essentially how our live sessions work. There's one more thing I want to go over, which is the difference between one of these regular live sessions and a Meet session. But before I close this window, I just want to see if anyone has any questions about our online classroom here. So go ahead and type those out. I'll pause for a few seconds to see if there are any. Okay, I don't see any questions yet. So I'm going to go ahead and close our online classroom here. You'll see when that happens, this end of session survey pops up. So your students are able to give us some feedback if they'd like to. Not all students choose to, but they can always fill that out if they'd like. The one additional thing I wanted to show you was down here at the very bottom, we went over the feature called Meet. So that was where you could schedule an online meeting and invite whoever you want to that session. So you do that by filling in the different sections right here. I already scheduled one of these, so that's saved here in my calendar over here on the right. So right here is the Meet session I've already scheduled. So if I want to start that session, I just click on the Enter button right here. So what's opening up here will look very similar to the online classroom we just saw. I just want to highlight a few differences. So this session might be between, say, myself and fellow students who were having a study group or preparing for a test, something like that. Or again, it might also be conducted by a tutor or a teacher, or someone who's giving extra help to the other people who are in the session. Right now, I'm the only one signed in, but the other people who did sign in would also be listed down here in the participants box. One of the main differences is that instead of just one tutor and one student, you might have 4 or 5 or more people signed into one of these sessions, and then everybody signed in would be able to see what's written, what's put on the whiteboard, or see what's typed in the chat box. So it would be a group session. The other difference, you'll see the color block options here in the audio feature. So you will be able to use audio in these sessions. So whenever you're connected with our tutor, you can't use audio, but when you're connected in a Meet session here with whoever you invite, you will be able to use audio, assuming everyone's connected. So those are some of the main differences. The last one is that if the session is being run by a tutor or a teacher, or someone who's giving help to the rest of the people signed in, that person will have the option of clicking on each of the participants' names here in the box and giving each person a private whiteboard. So that will create additional tabs right up here. So our public tab everything here would be visible to everybody. But if you create a private tab for a student, the only people who could see what's on that tab are that student and the moderator of the session, or the person who's running the session. So it's a great way to give extra help to people who are connected in that session. Other than that, though, the online classroom here in a Meet session works exactly the same way. You have the same buttons available over here on the left. There are a few additional buttons up here at the top. Most of them are not even used, the ones that are sort of not in color here, and then a lot of the same ones you'll have here as well. These really, the extra ones that you have really won't be used by the tutor or by the person who's running the session. The ones that are used are the same ones we already saw, these options here. Okay, so that was essentially everything that we offer through the page here. We went through the Adult Learners button, all the options down here in the middle of the page, as well as the Learning Account features. Again, this is the layout here that some of you might see if anyone signed in from one of the higher ed institutions, so the colleges or universities. You would see this layout. You'll essentially have the same options. Things are in slightly different places, but you'll have the same options available. It's just in a different layout here. If anyone has any questions, about these different layouts, you can feel free to type those out now. If anyone needs to go, again, that's pretty much everything I was going to go over, so you can feel free to sign out. But I'll stay logged in for another few minutes and answer any questions that anybody has. If anyone does need to sign out, thanks a lot for attending. I hope it was helpful. But again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type those out now, and I'd be happy to address them.